Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I just want to do a quick video on an adventure I had. I had to upload the latest version of the software of my truck to keep the truck in good communication with my phone, and didn't record it because I wasn't sure how to do it or if it was even going to work. But I do want to take a minute to describe the symptoms I was having and a quick summary of how I ended up fixing it. So when I did my research, I didn't find anybody that had the same symptoms that I had, hence the reason for this video. What happened to me is what I would call a graceful degradation between the handshake of the car or my truck and my phone. When I first got the truck, you'd turn the truck on, plug in the phone, and the two saw each other. Apple CarPlay would come up, and all was good with the world. And I didn't really give it a lot of thought because it just worked all the time. Then about 6 months ago, I started to have some minor issues. I would have to plug the phone in once or twice or sometimes 3 times to get the truck to see the phone and the phone to see the truck and for Apple CarPlay to come up and work the way it should. And I started to second think if I was doing something different. And it kept getting worse. I would have episodes where things seemed to start out, they would link properly, and then when I was driving, my phone would ding like I had just plugged it in, even though I hadn't. And the Apple CarPlay would disappear, and the Ford screen would come up for a minute or two. Then the phone would ding again, and Apple CarPlay would all of a sudden come up, and there it was on the display of the truck. And we would play this game for several miles, where, Apple CarPlay would go away and then come back. And that was getting even more annoying. So at that point, I would resort to rebooting the phone, and that would seem to resolve that particular issue, at least for a little while. But things got even worse, and it would get to the point where I'd actually have to pull the truck to the side of the road and shut the truck off, sort of reboot my truck and reboot my phone, and that was particularly annoying. And another symptom I had is if I was listening to a podcast, the voices start to crackle on you. And that was an early indicator that you were going to lose the connection between the Ford truck and the phone. And at that point, I decided it was time to figure out what was going wrong. And you know how it works with software. Whenever you're having problems, the first thing they tell you to do is to make sure you have the latest version of the software. And I knew my phone was up to date, and I thought my truck was up to date because I had the Wi-Fi enabled. But that's when I discovered I had to do something a little more. Basically what I did, you go to the Ford website, enter the VIN. They let you know if there's a newer version of software, which I had. And other people have done videos on this, and if I can, I will link a video to it. And you download the zip file from Ford. You open the zip file, or uncompress it into a much larger file. Ford says you need 8 gig. I think the file I ended up with was closer to a quarter gig. So I think 8 gig is a very much worst case scenario. And the thumb drive has to be formatted the right way, in exFAT format. What you do is you start the truck, turn it on, and you insert the thumb drive into the USB port, and the truck automatically senses it, and it says it's reading it, and it's really a pretty crappy handshake between Ford and you. You don't really know if everything you're doing is going well until you get the confirmation at the end that it all went okay. There's no little hourglass or twirly thing or ruler to let you know that everything's going okay. I found this out the hard way. I had misformatted it when I did it, and I stuck it in, and I waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and finally I lost my patience, and I went back and I checked my notes, and I realized I had made a mistake. So I had to do it all over again, formatting the thumb drive to the proper format. But the good news is it worked. It came back after about 7 or 8 minutes and said everything went okay. I also have my truck set up on my home Wi-Fi network, but it doesn't seem to do much of anything. It didn't keep the truck updated, and I suspect it's because the signal quality out here in the driveway isn't high enough to actually get any real data transfer. It may not even really see my Wi-Fi network. But anyway, that's all I got. Hopefully, like I say, if there's some of you out there with similar issues and problems and you're wondering what it takes to fix it, you can give that a whirl. I have no idea what Ford would charge to do that, but in all honesty, it only takes half hour or so, assuming you have the thumb drive. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. And if you got any comments, please feel free to leave them. And as always, take care. stay safe, and keep your eyes out for the next one.